Our next guest is one busy actor. He's visiting with us in London right now. He's busy with a project called Downton Abbey. You guys know that show on PBS, big hit as they wrap up their season. But more importantly, there's a new DVD out, a movie that I got to see, Paddington. And Hugh, do you think this movie transcends generations, even though it's a kid's movie?
I think so. I mean, this has become, a proper family movie that, I think of things like The Sound of Music or Mary Poppins, that I grew up with, or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I think that's got that same sort of classic feel to it, really. And I think that's what audiences have engaged with, that, a kid of 5 can enjoy it and a kid of 75 can enjoy it.
Well, Hugh, this film is such a juxtaposition between the aristocratic role you have in Downton Abbey. Tell us why you did the film.
Well, Paddington is an iconic British character, really, and I grew up with the stories that Michael Bond wrote decades and decades ago. And my parents used to read the stories to me, and then I read them for myself when I was that little bit older. So Paddington's been very dear to my heart, as he is to millions of people around the world. So that's why I was immediately intrigued when I heard that David Heyman was producing this movie. And of course, he produced the Harry Potter films. So you feel you're in safe, respectful hands. But nevertheless, I was nervous when I started reading the script. I thought, is it going to live up to my memory of the character? Is it going to trample on my childhood memories? But I was roaring with laughter in the first few pages, and very touched by it as well. So that's really why I signed up, and the Paul King, who directed and really polished the script, is ultimately, he is basically Paddington. He's an adorable man, and has that same wide-eyed optimism that Paddington has. So it was a very happy experience.
Well, Hugh, I've got to talk about one clip in the film that I want to find out how many takes it actually took, is when you get drenched with water.
Well, actually, the one thing that you think you might have thought was all CGI was actually real. Yeah, no, I did get drenched in water, and it took a few weeks to get that right, because I remember Paul, the director, coming back from various tank tests, as they're called, to see how the gushing water was working, and he'd come back, and say it's not. I want it to really, really knock you sideways, and it's not. It's looking a bit sort of tepid, and it will be, not quite as tempestuous as it should. And so when eventually we got to the day itself, it was a huge amount of water coming out of a small space at great force, and we got drenched. But I think we managed to do a couple of takes. But no, that was a lot of fun, actually.
Hugh, one of the things that was obvious is how well this cast got along. Give us a little bit about the family feel.
Well, I was very fortunate in that, Sally Hawkins, who is a wonderful, wonderful actress, and we had the luxury of a few weeks rehearsal as a family, and Sam and Maddie, who played the children as well, we spent a good bit of time with them, and we were able to sort of bond as a family and improvise around the script a little bit and polish things up and put in some new jokes and ideas and have some fun. And I think that comes across. You feel that there's a family that they're at loggerheads at the beginning, but they are facing their own differences. And it's really Paddington's arrival that starts to gel them back together. And so that's a charming sort of message to the film, if there is to be a message at all. And of course, you've got the wonderful Julie Walters as the housekeeper, and she is a British legend, really. And you've got Jim Broadbent as Mr. Gruber, the kindly antiques dealer, and Nicole Kidman as the baddie, who has less than kind designs on the bear. So a wonderful cast that came together.
Well, Hugh, one of your adopted family members was CGI. How hard was it to act when Paddington wasn't there? Did someone use a puppet? How did you guys make it happen?
Well, all acting is about using your imagination in some way, pretending that the camera isn't there or pretending the audience isn't in front of you on stage. So with this, you just had to use a different sort of part of that imagination and believe the bear was there. Sometimes we had an actress who was the same height as Paddington. She'd walk through shots for us so that we get used to where our eyes were traveling, or sometimes we had nothing more exciting than a stick with a bit of sticky tape on it, and quite often thin air. But we also had a fabulous physical comedian who would improvise some of the scrapes that Paddington might get into. So he gets all bound up with sellotape at one point, and he creates havoc in a railway station tea room. And so with Javier acting out what the sort of things that Paddington might do, I was able to see and imagine what Paddington would be up to in the final cut. And lo and behold, there he was, far more vivid than I could ever possibly have hoped.
Well, congratulations on the great role here in Paddington, out on Blu-ray and DVD and HD digital. But what is it about acting, Hugh, that just brings out your best?
Telling stories, really. Telling stories and projecting yourself into characters that are perhaps unlike yourself, or bringing out elements of your own character that you perhaps didn't know were there. Ever since I was a kid, and my wonderful parents took me to the theatre a great deal, and being in a darkened room and being told stories and having my imagination unlocked, I found a fantastic thing as a kid, and I have the privilege of doing it as a grown-up. I feel very lucky to do something I love so much, telling stories.
Well, Hugh, you bring those stories to life so well through your characters. Thank you for following your passion. You're awesome. All the best to you and continued success.
All the best.